All right, John, I think we're live on the tube here on a Friday afternoon. Let me check on my little YouTube.
I'll look as well. Live, coming at you live. Used to be a big deal coming at you live.
People say live all the time for not stuff that's not even live.
Well, I mean, we do it for podcast stuff.
We don't say we're coming at you live on a podcast, do we?
No, I mean, I just think it naturally like coming at you live from the, I don't know, maybe not. You're right.
All right, we there.
Cool.
So we thought we'd do like hang out here for 20 minutes and 30 minutes, whatever, and just talk about the week. Football stuff that's been going on. I mean, we were just talking about this before. We just recorded a Mailbag podcast, which will be our 4th podcast of the week. That'll be up Saturday. A special surprise on that one for the if you've been listening for a while, I think we think you'll like it.
Think market.
Think
not
market.
The stock market, but little markets.
So, yeah, man, we're watching some golf, hanging.
Yeah, it's beautiful Friday. A little chilly.
So you and I were just talking before we started this about Mel Kiper and his new phrase that he coined. What was it? Anticipatory scouting? Is that what he said about
because
Justin
I
Fields?
think I thought within the last week a story came out that he's not a great anticipatory passer. So he kind of doubled down because clearly Mel likes him a lot. And in his mock draft he had, which was, I'm all for it, had us, a topic for us, the 49ers taking Justin Fields. And a lot of people, I think someone either on the broadcast when he was on Get Up, push back, or I forget exactly how the interaction started, but he got heated. And honestly, he's right, because I think we have so much evidence now. That's how draft rooms, and people I'm sure were like, oh, Mel, calm down. People get fired up in draft rooms. And think about this year's probably a little different, but on most years you spend your entire year by your fucking self. You're away from your family. You pound the pavement for a couple guys. Pound the table for a couple guys that you've driven around all the pavement to find. And you spend all this time liking a guy. And then all of a sudden you get into a draft room and the dude in the office that makes quadruple your salary with his feet up, it's like, I don't think the guy can play.
He's like, I don't know. He didn't see that safety.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was 28 degrees.
My pushback guy is, what the fuck are we paying coaches all this money for? Like, that's an element that Mel didn't really bring up there. And this is the thing that I'm going to go down swinging on moving forward. If I'm an owner, I'm paying my good offensive coaches at this point in time, there are countless coaches make over $10 million a year. And now, granted, those guys, I never hear Sean Payton go, you know what, I didn't want a piece of Josh Allen, or Andy go, I couldn't coach Mahomes. They fucking yearn for those guys. It's all the other guys making $7, $8 million, $6 million. Oh, dude, not good enough. Oh, he can't hit this guy. Oh, he doesn't see it. I'm paying you $7 million. Oh, and the quarterback coach that you've known since you guys went to James Madison, I'm paying that guy $800,000. And then your offensive coordinator, even though you call the plays, I'm paying 1.3. Do the math, guy. In any other business. Now, the owner, it's a weird spot for him. He's not a part of every draft meeting. But if he was, I think he would go, why do we keep saying all these negatives on these top-end talents? And now we have recent memory. And this is where Mel was right. The last couple years, the people we shit on, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, they kicking ass and taking names. And what do both those guys have in common? They had elite traits. Go get a guy with elite traits, and all this money I'm paying you guys, all these whistles around your necks, let's get on the field, blow some whistles, and coach them up. Because you tell me how much you know, and you're off in this dark office with a can of Copenhagen and a Doritos. You're then there 14 hours a day. Like, let's coach these guys up. It's the most important position in all of sports, the most highly paid asset we'll have in our team. I'm just tired of these coaches. Like, he doesn't see it. Well, you do, so coach them up.
Yeah, I will say, I do think isn't that the hardest thing to measure? We're talking about what I think is the hardest thing to measure when it comes to quarterbacks is how fast.
But it's never been easier though, because they have you're not like throwing guys open as much.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, I think
collegiate.
Brain processing speed is the hardest thing. It's what there are some people out there trying to measure it, how fast your brain processes what it sees. But that is the hardest thing to really measure, right? Because you don't really know how a guy's been coached, what the receiver was supposed to do. There's a lot of things you don't know. But I like the anticipatory scouting because what you're talking about is trying to identify the things that you can work with and accentuate the things that the player needs help with. We talk about it all the time with less talented players. We just don't talk about it as much with the most talented player. With less talented players, it's like, oh, look what he got out of Kirk Cousins. Right, we talk about that with Kyle all the time. We talk about it.
But we understand that because his talent is limited, right?
Yeah, but so my point is that one's easier to talk about because those guys we think have faster processors. They're just limited by their athletic ability. Well, the limited athletic ability is much easier to see. The elite athletic ability is easier to see than the fast processing and the slow processing, right? I just think that's why it's such a challenge. The other part, and we see it in college.
But those guys, Josh Allen and Justin Herbert, especially Josh Allen, could not do it in college, and now he does it just fine.
Well, yeah, it's an example of all the other factors. The talent around him, the type of offense you run. That's what I'm just saying. It's like there's a million different – I'm agreeing with everything. I'm just saying there are a million factors here that make it inexact. And for all the guys
I'm not saying it's exact, and I'm not saying that even if you draft one of these guys, it can be fixed. You're right. Guys may never figure it out. But I will always take a swing on that level, especially back to what I was saying. Why are we paying these coaches so much money? I'll tell you why. Because we think they can develop and coach and make guys better. That is their job. But especially Kyle. Like Kyle, so talented.
You're right, but that's not what we talk about when we talk about paying coaches. We talk about play calling on offense. We talk about scheming on defense. We don't ever, some people, like it gets talked about. I'm not saying the global, but we don't really know what's going on in a practice. We don't really know what's going on in a film session, right? So it's harder to attach a value to like the linebacker coach. The only thing we really talk about with coaching is play calling on both sides of the football and decision making in terms of let's be aggressive here, let's go for it here, let's throw it on 3rd and long here instead of kneeling and punting or whatever, right? Like that's I'm not the hardest thing to measure from the outside too.
Part of play calling is helping the guy out and making it easier.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, absolutely.
So I just when it comes
you'll hear
to
you'll hear it in college where it's like, oh, we're watching him. They're not making him. He's just he's reading half the field, or he's a one-read quarterback, right?
Well, and in fairness to them, they don't have as much time to their disposal to probably teach all the intricacies. You know what I'm trying to say there. The details.
No, I can't think of the word. Intricacies.
Intricacies? I can't. I'm in my own head now.
Intricacies.
It's understandable. They have the 20 hours. It's tough. In pro football, there are zero excuses. Especially, and it's not just on the coach. It's on the player, right? He's got to be an all-in type player. I texted with a buddy the other day with the Chiefs. I was like, what are you guys up to? He's like, yeah, we haven't had a day off since Super Bowl, just doing meetings. He's like, yeah, the coaches are all on vacation. He's like, Coach Reed's I think he's in LA or something. So I'm just like, oh, so who's in the building? He's like, yeah, just the scouts, ... And I've seen Mahomes a couple times. Yeah. Like he's coming in there to work out. He's coming in there to do stuff. Like you can't measure. That's where the scouts have to come in, like, and do all the research on that, because once the coach meets them, like, of course the guy's gonna be, I love football, give you everything I have. Like, no, your words on like what is your last 3 or 4 years tell us. But if they have the check marks on that, and then they have the physical tools, with the way the game is played right now, a good coach should be able to maximize every quarterback that has like Justin Fields is not some raw, like we've seen him against elite teams, like play well, like it's happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just using him as an example.
I would take him. But part of taking him is because you believe Kyle Shanahan can make the most of it.
Someone tweeted at me yesterday that was like, if I'm the Niners and Justin Fields and Mac Jones are both there at number 12, you don't have to use any draft capital to move up and get them, I would take Mac Jones because he has a much higher floor. And I was like, that's the type of logic, and there are many coaches that would probably agree with that make me want to puke in my mouth.
Well, it's historically what we've at least perceived Shanahan's logic is, right? I don't know if it is or not. And remember, we talked the other day about Chris Sims saying he's kind of changed the way he thinks. He needs a guy that, when it breaks down, can bail him out. But you don't win Super Bowls with those guys. I mean, occasionally there are outliers, but it's just not. Those aren't what franchise quarterbacks are.
And in fairness, we talk a lot about the Niners. Like, part of the reason Seattle always has a fighting chance, right, is because as of right now they have this elite player. We just saw it with the Rams, who were just they felt capped by their quarterback.
Yeah, it turned out
and
he
they
didn't
wanted
have
a
a
guy
high
with a
floor,
much higher
though.
ceiling.
It
Who?
turned out Goff's floor wasn't he wasn't safe, right?
No, but I'm talking about like once. I'm just talking about like this last year. Like their big issue with him now
Yeah.
was just like this guy is just he is what he is. We need to get. You saw with the Niners, like if Jimmy would have been a more dynamic player, and we've talked about this a little bit before, the Chiefs, I would say, like Tampa just legitimately kicked their ass, right? They just got their ass kicked. The Niners, the Chiefs were just like off, right? It was just like, God, this is crazy to watch. They would have been if the Niners would have had a top 10 quarterback, instead of being up 20-10 at one point, it feels like the score might have been like 28-10. And you just get to a point in a score, and you saw this in the Tampa Green Bay game. In a playoff game, once you get like an 18-point lead, even if the momentum kind of shifts, it's really hard, especially like once you get to like early in the third quarter. There's just not enough time left.
Irony is the Chiefs did it in the playoff run before, but it's not normal, right? And the only reason they did it is because they have Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. So I just think I just think that we're just watching a different football than you and I grew up on, even that you and I are early adult, like in the 2000s. The game is just you need so much mobility and playmaking at the quarterback. With before, most people just have, like, even if you didn't have Peyton or Brady, well, if you had Flacco or Eli or some of these other guys, like, yeah, if you built the team the right way, you'd be competitive, right?
Yeah.
Like those days are done.
Hey, let me try something real quick. By the way, like this video as we're going, I'm just looking at the comments here. It says I can add to broadcast. I'm just going to click on one here and see if a comment shows up.
Do it.
Let's see here.
Do it.
Did that just show up? The font's kind of dark. I'm going to have to change that.
I'm going to go to the stream and mute it so I can watch it.
Let me change the font here.
Whose comment
This
you try
is
to bring up?
Joe Montana just weighed in, John.
Oh, damn. Joe Cool.
All right. Does that? Oh, that's a little better. Is red the color, or like, would you want green?
I'm a little delayed
Yeah,
watching.
you're a little behind. You'll see it here in a second. But
Oh, I see what you're saying. Do you know what might be a good color if you're going to leave it down? What about white?
white.
Does that look better?
Yeah, good call.
You know what
That's the
that
move.
shows? I've done a lot of Instagram stories, and you just know how it kind of what pops.
Good call. All right, let's see. Let's throw a few. Thank you. Alex also said use white. Super Bowl. Shanahan blew it with 7 minutes left, says Antonio. Well, this is where I need to be sharing the screen with you. See, we can so you can see it immediately.
No, but I can see all the comments.
I know, but it comes a second later. Hold on a second. Let me just share this with you.
Should Raiders draft offensive line in the draft if they get rid of Trent Brown?
Here. Now you can see. Look, John, you can see this, and now it's there. You can see it there, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Should the Raiders draft an offensive lineman if they get rid of Trent Brown? Yeah.
Trent Brown's had a bizarre career. 7th rounder, bulky, under the radar, then starts, and it's clear he's like a pretty good find in the 7th round. Then Kyle gets there, has a pretty good season, and they're like, we ain't paying this guy. Traded to the Patriots, Super Bowl champ at left tackle for Tom Brady, then gets broken off by the Raiders, which at the time it was like the highest paid right tackle ever. And there's I don't blame him for go and take the money, but his Raider career has kind of been a disaster. But it's not because he's a bad player. Like, he's good, but it's like, does he like the Raiders? Does he just quit on them? It's just a bizarre, almost like Belichick. Like, it's weird. Kyle lost, right? Kyle sold early, and Belichick reaped the rewards. But he paid the same price Kyle did, but he got a starting left tackle, and then Belichick didn't pay anybody, and then Gruden was the guy that basically bought like Bitcoin way too late.
Kyle lost.
Kyle could have held on to Bitcoin a little longer.
Yeah, but also you could have overheld and paid him, right? Which would have been
Well,
bad.
you could have what you could have done is just kept him and then let him walk and then receive compensatory pick. Like, that's probably the Ravens Ozzie Newsome move.
Aaron Rodgers says, trade me to SF, baby. Doesn't look like Aaron in the photo, but congrats on your engagement. How about this one, John? This is from Daniel. What are your thoughts on Davis Mills?
I follow Mac Jones on Instagram, and they were playing golf together today. Those two.
Davis is so. Remember, you and I talked.
Davis was huge.
He's a big guy. He's really athletic. He's from Atlanta, like premium prospect. The problem is he's had 3 knee injuries. One was not like season-ending in college, but I think he lost a year of high school and then had a major. He wears a knee brace. But he's 6'4". He's 230. Remember, you and I talked to David Shaw on the podcast. What are you reacting to?
I'm just saying he's big.
Oh, yeah.
He looked big.
You and I talked to David Shaw back in like June, and he thought that Davis Mills would be done after the season because he'd play so well that he'd be a first rounder. No one's going to draft him in the first round because he just hasn't played enough. But I've talked to a couple people who think like he's an elite level athlete. It's just he hasn't really had a chance to show it. He's got a really strong arm. I actually would be in favor of drafting him. It feels like with the injury history, it'd be hard to draft him in the second or third round. But if you could get him, I think if you get him in the fourth round, I don't think you get quarterbacks with his potential in the fourth round that often. I mean, it's not to say you don't get good quarterbacks then, but like he's the kind of guy. I think David thinks if he played a full year at Stanford, then he could be a first round pick, and I agree with that. So I do think he'd be value. It's just he's a redshirt junior. He's just not going to come back for a 5th year.
Well, think about this. Here's the way you have to do it. Compare him to recent 4th-round picks. And there's a recent Pac-12 guy that just got drafted last year in the 4th round, Jacob Eason. If you were going to use a 4th-round pick on Mills or Jacob Eason, who would you take?
I would take Davis Mills in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Which means maybe.
So that's where.
Again, without the injury, if he had played as little as he's played but didn't have an injury history, I'd probably take him maybe in the late second, early third. It's just the injury history scares you.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
I wonder if does he sneak into the 3rd round? It feels a little early for a guy that hasn't played.
It does feel for a guy that hasn't played. And again, it's not if he hadn't.
It's a little bit of a
like
bulky type pick.
Yeah, if he was a junior and just had been behind somebody, and then the season was short, and you had no throw. But he's been hurt.
Was he the backup for the dude that transferred to Mike Leach in Mississippi State?
Well, he was like hurt, and then KJ Costello like beat him out, and then it was weird. But yeah, for a short period of time.
Gotcha.
I think they wanted him to be the quarterback, but then he wasn't healthy. I don't know. It was kind of.
Is Costello? Was he a grad transfer?
Yes.
So he's like he'll get won't get drafted, but he'll be like an undrafted free agent type.
Yeah, he's 20, almost 24.
God. Yeah, he's like, I came in when Luck was here.
He's a really good golfer.
Costello?
Good athlete, yeah, from what I've heard.
Can you imagine just people in his life, him just telling, like, explain the difference. You started at Stanford, played at Stanford, and then you went to Mississippi State. If you just went to the hardest academic school in America that is good at non-Ivy League, it would be like, I think Stanford would probably be number 1, maybe Vanderbilt, but I got a soft spot. I go Stanford. If you had to say the easiest university to get into America, I mean, what comes to my mind would be like Florida State or Mississippi State. Think about the paradigm there. Like he's the most like that's pretty nuts.
And to go from David Shaw to
David Shaw to Leach, but also like it's not like his Mississippi State career sucked. Like he got to play in the SEC in that side. He's like got to play Alabama, LSU, A&M. Didn't he beat LSU? Remember week 1? Remember he threw for like 850 yards. Remember that box score?
Yes. And then they got shut out the next week or something like that.
Yeah,
I think they literally got shut out the next week.
He can always tell his kids he beat LSU.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure it was an SEC or NCAA record, the amount of yards he threw for. Definitely SEC. I don't think anyone's ever thrown for that many. It was like 700. That's when Ed Ogeron went on. Ed Ogeron went on the clock week 1 after winning the national championship.
All right, so they didn't get shut out the next week. 2 weeks later, they lost to Kentucky 24-2.
Yeah. He got benched, right, in the season.
Yeah. He was 36 of 60 for 623, 5 touchdowns against LSU.
How many yards?
623.
Pretty good day at the office.
Alex says, hypothetically, if Watson became a Niner, who would be his number 1 target, Kittle or Ayuk?
Kittle would be my take.
Yeah, you're probably right. Ideally, to me, you draft a receiver in the first round, you want him to be a true number one receiver, like in targets.
But it's like, who's Mahomes' number one target?
Yeah, Kelsey.
And when you say Hill is easily one of the best ones in the NFL,
part of what makes him. So
I don't think
good
it's a bad thing.
Yeah, no, it's not a bad thing.
I think in a perfect world, you just got those two guys kicking ass every week. Does Cliff? This guy's peppering us with Arizona questions. Johnny, venerable. He wants to know why we don't give the Cardinals any love. And does Cliff get fired this year? If the Cardinals win 6 games, does he get fired?
Yes, especially if is it easier to fire him or harder to fire him if Kyler's good? I think it's easier to fire him. If Kyler's good but you don't win?
Yeah.
Because then you're kind of in the situation the Chargers were in.
Well, if he gets fired, I think they fire, I'd say Steve Keim would be in some trouble, right? It would probably just be a reset.
You're saying
I actually
Kyler's
think
not very good.
Last year, I remember an agent told me that represents coaches. He's like, I hear you shitting on Atlanta's job. He's like, these coaches are lined up to go there. The price of living, the ownership, the building, the passion for football. I know that like the South, they don't care about that. Like, I would say the number one coach on this market offensively was Arthur Smith, and that's where he went. I think the Cardinals would actually be viewed really highly. You live in Scottsdale. The owner is shown to be pretty, I guess with coaches, maybe he hasn't been as loyal. They run through a lot of coaches. It could be a good GM job.
No, but they used to be viewed as like a cheap organization. I don't think we really talk about that anymore. Their stadium's good. It might be a situation, you're right, where you – now, the GM is always sitting next to the owner, so I don't know if you could muscle him out if you got that job, but –
how many coaches does Steve Keim get to pick? But do you agree that I think he would probably be one of the rare owners? He'd be one of the rare owners that feels he's just dramatically better than his dad, right? Because I remember growing up, the Bidwell family, they were so cheap, and then the kids taking over, and you watch him on that Amazon Prime, he just feels like, pretty intelligent, smart guy, passionate about football,
you
money.
See a lot of big
now
games
that everyone
there, right?
has so much money.
They have a new stadium. They play big college football games there. They just become
I think
part
people
of the
would be
big picture, big picture football kind of picture.
Here would be a one. If the Rams and the Cardinals both had nothing, like all the players were equal, they had no quarterback, the jobs were open, what coaches would be more? Would you think coaches would be more interested in going to LA or the Cardinals?
Which LA?
The Rams. Would you say the Rams feel like a bigger NFL job than the Cardinals, or is
yeah?
Would you
I
say they're equals?
I think they feel bigger.
Just because they're in LA.
They're in LA. They were just in the Super Bowl.
I do think when the Cardinals were rolling with like Arians and Carson, they were a pretty big draw.
The
I mean, they were playing.
Like, I think you can be big anywhere. Now, I was talking to a guy yesterday who lives in LA, and I was just like, I was going through the list of just like, I was like, all right, let's talk about coverage. Like UCLA basketball, what's going on there? He's like, oh yeah, they got 2 writers on the team. I'm like, USC, we're going through it. I'm like, what about the Chargers? He's like, nothing. No one pays attention. I was like, really? I was like, what about the Rams? He's like, yeah, people pay attention to the Rams. But he's like a lifetime LA guy. He's like, Chargers should have stayed in San Diego. Like, I think that's probably most LA things. Like, what are they doing? Like, we don't want them here.
Preaching the choir. I agree.
It sucks.
They belong
they'd be
in
so
San Diego.
great for San Diego. Imagine if you were a San Diego fan and you had Herbert and Tatis right now. There'd be no better place to be. I mean, there are, but
when Tiger got in that accident, he was going to meet Drew Brees. It turns out Drew Brees is like a place in Southern California. Because think about this: a guy from the Midwest, from Texas, gets drafted to the San Diego Chargers. Now, granted, he was only there 4 or 5 years. Can you imagine when he first got out there at like 22 years old? He's probably like, "Oh, is this heaven?" Like, it does feel that most guys that played for the San Diego Chargers, they were from Florida, wherever. They were beloved. It's just a great place to be. Have you ever met anyone that's like, yeah, it's been a couple weeks in San Diego. It sucked.
Couldn't wait to get out of there.
I mean, yeah. If you're going to pay the taxes, that's probably the place to live.
Got a second Davis Mills question. We addressed it earlier, but we got some Davis Mills interest? Does he have sleeper potential? Yeah.
I saw someone in the comments talk about Ellinger.
Oh, yeah. Sam
the
Ellinger.
Texas guy that was there since 2007.
Mm-hmm. As a 6th rounder? Was that what the question was?
I thought it was like 4th. I'll be honest. In his career, beside maybe a bowl game, I find myself, I never watch more than like 20 minutes consecutively a Texas game. But maybe Oklahoma when they play Oklahoma if the game's good. But I do not watch
Big 12 football.
That program doesn't resonate with me. Like, it's just one of those programs that I can't sit there. Like, I can sit there and watch a full Alabama game, a full LSU game, a full whoever the Pac-12 team is that's rolling, or a player I like. I can't do that with Texas. I change the channel. Do you notice that?
I do know.
Do you feel like, when's the last time you watched just a Texas game? Like Texas, Iowa State.
Utah in the bowl game. Iowa State's a good watch. You know, a few years ago they had that. Who were they playing in the Dicker, the kicker? That game was good.
I thought there was a game against Oklahoma that went to like 7 overtime. They've had some good games against Oklahoma in his time there. They had a sweet bowl game, remember, when Herman first got there? Or maybe Herman's second year, where Ellinger goes, "We're back." Yeah, that was pretty cool, and it went viral. But that was against, like, was that against Oregon? They usually have a good bowl matchup, Texas.
Because you get the Alamo, which is solid.
Yeah, and they get like the Wednesday night before the playoffs to themselves, and everyone's like, "Oh, Texas,
it's like, oh,
Texas, Oregon." Yeah. Texas, Florida. Like, oh, yeah, I'll dabble.
Will says, will Saleh consider trading the second pick if he would Saleh consider trading the second pick if he wants to rebuild that roster around Darnold? I said this the other day. I don't think Darnold's on the Jets this year. I don't think you could rebuild your roster. You get this opportunity to start from scratch, and you go, "We're going with him." When you're drafting second, I don't know.
He's young. He's not even 24 yet.
I know.
High character guy. Are we sure that like Zach Wilson is more talented than him?
No.
Trey Lance, 1-year starter. Justin Fields is a pretty raw product that needs a lot of work. Now, as Mel said, you got to project. You're not wrong.
Vince Young. That was the last time you watched, somebody said?
That game overrated a little, or was it that good? Ending was sweet. I'd have to rewatch to remember like the first half.
One of the things that makes that game so good is just the players that were in it.
Yeah. It's like Vince Young to Jamal Charles, tackled by Ray Malaluga.
USC was the greatest team of all time, we thought. If they had won that game, we'd look at that SC team. That's what we called them, the greatest team of all time.
Was that for 3 straight natties?
Was that for 3, or was the next year would have been for 3? Yeah, because that was Liner's Heisman year, right? And Reggie had won the year before. Yeah.
I think it was for 3. But the 1 included a split.
An AP.
You remember back when that happened? People forget that. But like most of our life, I feel like there were a lot of split champions. Like people think like UCF was joking around. There were a lot of people that just claimed national champions that were like, well, was Washington or Alabama the national championship in 1992?
Both
or whatever.
Of them.
Like who won it? Yeah. Great part is with more of the time goes, no one remembers. Like, oh, national champs, 93.
Was there another team? I don't know.
Yeah, well, Notre Dame and Oklahoma are also claiming it. Yeah, we all won national championships.
Yeah, they went 8-0 though. We went 9-0. 8-0. Daniel says, should the Niners trade down and take a tackle and draft 2 DBs in the second round? I wouldn't. I would only trade down if the 2 best tackles aren't there.
Yeah, no trading down.
I mean, I don't think Penei Sewell will be there. Although, did Daniel Jeremiah have Slater ahead of Sewell in his mock draft? I can't remember.
I think so. I saw a clip of Sewell. I have to watch more. It looked a little stiff to me, but
I'd be surprised if you watch him more. If you still
is he super Mr. Is he super Mr. Fluid athlete?
Okay, that's his calling card. I remember seeing him on the practice field and not realizing how big he was until he went and stood next to somebody else, because proportionally he looks like a smaller guy, right? Like he looks like a blown up version of like a small forward. You know what I mean? Where it's like, there's like tall, and then there's like tall where it looks disproportionate.
He doesn't have like the gut or anything.
No, but he's even like, how LeBron, like a skinny guy might look like he's taller at 6'8" than LeBron looks because LeBron is just built that he just looks big. Like to me, that's Panay. Like he looks more athletic than you would think a guy at his height would be. But I'd be interested. Why don't you grind some more 2019 Oregon tape and let me know what you think.
His brother's pretty sweet. What's his brother's name?
Noah.
His brother's one of the rare guys in recent memory. It happens a lot in basketball. They got carted off the field and you thought his leg had been blown out, and then he was practicing on Monday.
Practice 2 days later.
Full go. Thank God. I mean, that guy, I remember it was like, okay, it's the hype on this guy. He was a huge recruit. Their first game, it was like, oh my God, this guy's making every tackle.
Yeah.
He's just killing people. Can you imagine like the first practice? Mario was like, yeah, this guy's good. Starting middle linebacker, 18-year-old. Go get him, son. The one thing about Oregon these next couple of years, their talent is going to be, is anyone even out west even close, top to bottom? Like their high-end talent? Like, I mean, they're going to have so many.
SC's class this year was much better than SC's class this year is supposed to be pretty good. Oregon has, I think, like a couple of receivers coming in, which has not been where they're like 5-star guys, right? Have been linebackers, D linemen, edge rushers. Now they've got a couple. I think got a 4 or 5-star receiver coming in. They've got Thibodeau, who's back, who was like playing as a true freshman, who's first round edge rusher. They got Sewell, and then they have this other guy who's coming back, right? Who's a sophomore named Justin Flo, who was a huge recruit last year when they got him. So yeah, they just don't have their quarterback situation is unknown.
Well, to me,
Ohio
they
State
could
too.
Their O and D lines could just maul people in the Pac-12, right?
Yeah. Which
like
is
they might have built
weakness of West Coast.
They might have built like an SEC. I feel like they're going to have an SEC front on both sides, and it's going to be if they just have solid players at other positions. Which how could they not? It could be.
Yeah, it's
quarterback's
just this
okay.
year they play Ohio State week 2 at Ohio State, and their quarterback who was there last year left.
Ohio State's quarterback left too.
That's true. They got JT Shroud. That's their guy.
Ohio State's.
Yeah, he was on, but he's like their big time recruit. But he was on the team last year. He's not a true freshman. You know what I mean? Whereas Oregon's big time recruit is a true freshman.
But he's a redshirt freshman.
Yeah,
he's never played.
CJ or JT. Maybe it's CJ Stroud. Did I say JT?
But I mean, he's a redshirt 5-star. Could have gone anywhere. Freshman.
Yeah, I just mean Oregon's got
it helps.
A 4-star guy, but he's a true freshman.
Is he already there though?
He's a true freshman this year. Oh, you mean like has he shown up mid-year enrollee? I don't know. Good question.
But even that, I mean, you're right. It's a lot.
So.
Who's your first game against? I don't know. Ohio State.
Fresno State.
That's who they. But that's not an easy opener. As you know, a couple dogs here. Fresno's played them historically pretty well.
Antonio says Mac Jones or Kyle Trask. Who's better? Mac Jones.
Mac. Yeah.
This became a mailbag. We just did a mailbag podcast for the weekend, which we'll put out tomorrow. But
when do you guys start getting dialed into college basketball, Guy? Any West Coast teams you like in the tournament?
So I just called UCLA's game last night. They shot like basically 60% for the game. I like them. They're going to be really good next year because they got a 5-star coming in. McDonald's All-American. SC's got a top 3 pick, Evan Mobley, but they lost yesterday to Colorado. But I think they'll be fine. They got basically 2 7-footers, kind of semi-veteran guard, really good kind of wing transfer, Tajidi. They're pretty good. I think they're actually good. They'll probably be a top 4 seed. They'll be a 4 seed.
SC?
I like SC, yeah.
Damn it. I thought Andy Enfield was getting run out of town. I mean,
they're really good this year, and they've they lost yesterday, but at Colorado that's a tough game. Yeah, they got
Oregon any good?
Huh?
Oregon any good?
Yeah, Oregon's good. They just didn't play together. They had a bunch of games delayed. They haven't really played together. But they've got a guy, maybe the most underrated player in the country on the West Coast, named Chris Duarte, who's a really good player. Long, defense, hits threes, hit some big shots last night against Stanford. Oregon's always scary. I like SC. UCLA just scraps, very matchup dependent. They lost one of their best players to an ACL 2 months ago. So those would be my 3.
And my
UCLA's
squad,
bad. Your guy Mick Cronin,
I know him.
only bald guys on the staff.
Oh, I love that. What do you think Mick is, about 5'6"?
5'8" maybe. A big Mick. Yeah. I love Mick Cronin.
Did he play, or is he just like a Charlie Weiss?
But he was a Bob Huggins, like he coached at Cincinnati.
Oh, the tough guy.
Tough.
When I talk with my guy Mark Few at the Bay Club, aka screamed out my window, "Go coach!" He likes his squad.
You like Gonzaga, John? All right, mark that down in pen. Middle cost it on Gonzaga.
Are they the heavy favorites?
They got them. I think so. Gonzaga. Have we talked about this? Gonzaga. I don't think I haven't checked on it this week, but I don't think they've had a 10-point game since like December. But let me pull it up here.
You're saying no one's played within 10 points of them.
Yeah. Let's look. So they won last night by 14. The game before that they won by 37. The game before that was 22. The game before that was 39, 11, a lot.
The teams they're playing suck, right?
Yeah, it's their league, but they play this league every year. John, they beat Iowa by 11 back in December. They beat West Virginia by 5, and that is, I think, their only single-digit game. They beat Auburn by 23, and they beat Kansas by 12.
Yeah, they're good.
So, again, I'm pretty sure I'm correct. They've had one game that they've won by single digits. The rest of them, they've won by double digits. And if
they played the Pac-12, would they run the table?
No.
One loss?
Yeah, maybe a couple losses. But they'd be the best. I think they'd win the league. I think they're going to win the national championship. So, yeah. Do you have my bookie? Do you have like future odds right now?
Let's look that up. What happened last night with
brackets?
What happened last night with Jamal Murray that people were going so crazy about?
So the Nuggets are down by 2.
Okay.
At home. Seconds left. They get a fast break. It's a 3-on-1, like semi. There's a fourth guy coming. Instead of running 3-on-1.
With how much time left?
6,
like 5, 8
5,
seconds?
4, 3. Jamal Murray's coming up the left side. He's got 2 guys coming, like one guy coming down the middle, the other guy coming down the right sideline. He pulls up. The defender goes with him. The other 2 guys, if one of them just
I thought it was 3.
Well, there's a third guy, but there's kind of a guy coming with him. So yeah, it's like a 3.5 on 1.5. But basically 3 guys end up on the wing. If 2 of the other guys nobody attacked the basket. Everybody stopped at the 3-point line. So he stops and like cross courts it, but it's an awkward pass, and the guy he gets off a shot. So they take a 3 to try and win. Again, fast break with 3-on-1 or 3.5 on 1.5, and nobody went
wide open dunk.
Everybody stops at the 3-point line.
They would have just
given it up, wide open dunk, tie the game. My take was, we do this in football. You go for the win, nobody says anything. You're like, yeah, go for 2, win the game, forget overtime. NBA, you got an open 3. What's an open 3 percentage versus the percentage of time you win in overtime? Like, fuck it, flip the coin, take an open 3. I don't care. People are like, this is analytics, is killing the sport. I'm like, it's an 82-game season. This is game 35. There are no fans. This is the dog days of an NBA season, right? Right before the All-Star break. They're about to go on a 4-game road trip. Again, it looked really bad, so they deserve to be made fun of. Everyone was killing them, and everyone's killing analytics, and I'm just like, I don't know, they're going for the win. Who cares?
I think there's a little indictment of that's just the way all these guys are wired now.
For sure.
Like, this is what it's done to these guys. In the history of basketball, wouldn't you say 20 years ago they all moved toward the basket, and the guy backpedaling just stays going back toward the basket? To me, I didn't think Jamal, like, were people blaming him? I just looked at, or they making fun of the other guys?
I think just making fun of the whole team. He got some of the credit. I think he got less of it and more was about his teammates. Just the visual of nobody attacking the basket and everybody just stopping at the 3-point line.
Yeah. Gonzaga on my bookie is basically 2-1 plus 205. The only other one that's even remotely that close would be Baylor at plus 280, so 2.8 to 1. Give me another good team like Kansas is 35-1.
Yeah, Michigan would be another good team.
Michigan, the Fighting Juwan Howards,
Coach of the year,
would be
baby.
8-1.
Yeah, they're gonna be a 1 seed.
So you'd say that's, I mean, if you're going to take one of the 1 seeds, 8-1 is pretty good odds.
How about Iowa?
Who's like Oregon, 80-1? Who'd you say?
Iowa.
Is that Fran Duffy?
It's
14-1.
Fran Duffy. Fran McCaffrey.
Fran McCaffrey. Fran Duffy works for the Eagles. He's their one of their guys.
Makes sense. Wasn't there wasn't there a Fran that was like one of the legendary Philadelphia Big 4, Big 5 coaches? Is there a Fran?
Yeah. Creighton, I think, must be pretty good. They're 30-1.
How about Florida State?
Florida State, the Fighting Bobby Bowdens are 16-1, so they're pretty good.
Ohio State?
Ohio State. Yeah, basically 16-1.
I'll give you one more. Houston. They're 4th in the net rankings right now.
Houston. Is that who's the coach? Remember he was going to leave and he ended up staying?
Kelvin?
Sampson, the text messenger?
Yep.
22-1.
That might be value.
I saw someone shitting on Shaka Smart. He's 40-1.
All the comments have stopped since we started talking NCAA basketball. You know, I haven't checked Lenardi's bracketology in the last couple of days, but you see Duke is like kind of in the mix after their one-and-done guy left.
Saw that.
They beat Virginia. They beat Syracuse. Anyway.
He didn't leave, guy. He packed up his shit. He cleaned out his locker, and he left town. He's out.
Yeah, he's out. What do you mean?
I don't know. I saw someone was like,
people
claiming that he didn't quit. He picked up all of his shit, and he left the program.
All right, here's a question. This is a great question. Don't answer this because Jackson asked this question. If Kyle Pitts is available, do the Niners take him? Check out the podcast tomorrow for our opinion on that topic.
I like that.
Check out the Haberman
How long have we been
Milkoff
going?
podcast. Oh, I forgot to
42
rename
minutes?
it. This live stream is just called live stream. I'll put the when we're done here, I'll put the description in the bio for those of you that haven't seen the podcast. But it seems like you guys know us.
Do you think this is the week I finally win a golf bet?
Scrub
Koepka's in the lead.
What do you got on Koepka here? 50 to win what?
I got 50 to win 1,400.
I mean, when you can bet Koepka at those odds, you got to do it.
I know. He's hot. Big purse. Let's get it.
Who's that? Oh, Fitzpatrick?
Yeah. The Irishman.
Okay. Yeah, this was just a Friday hang. Anything else we got to address here?
Just hanging with the boys.
Slater
Hanging with the boys. Yeah. Enjoy the night. You got anything doing tonight?
Hanging. Do I want to get out and get some dinner? Maybe. Might get out for some
Have
food.
a good weekend. Have a good weekend, everybody. Probably. Just see where the night goes. 2:40. Had a late lunch.
I've not eaten anything today, which to me is quick take, a key to a good Friday is not to eat, to be hungry for wherever the night. Not that we're really doing anything on Friday nights these days, but just like the option of like Friday night's a good eat out, take out, go out, whatever. I like to be hungry at like, the sun's out, it's 2:40 in the afternoon on a Friday. I like to not be, like miserable, full, ate too much. I like to stay light on a Friday afternoon.
Is it true spring forward is this weekend? Will the clocks move up?
Do we lose?
I thought someone said that.
So we lose an hour in spring forward?
March 14th? No, I think I'm a little early. We got some time.
Listening to this while doing a lab from home from an engineering class at UC Davis. Oh, Jose. Senor Froggies, or what was the name of that place?
How much would I have to pay you to like attend and try a semester at a college right now? Multiple courses.
Who gets to choose the classes?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be like, something crazy that you couldn't handle, but just basic stuff.
Would I have to take like chemistry?
No, I would say chemistry, like architect. I mean, something like
architecture,
some sociology, maybe some history, maybe like an accounting class or something.
Yeah, I don't think you'd have to pay me too. Like, would I just work from home kind of deal?
No, you'd attend class.
How many days a week? Like, would it disrupt my schedule currently, or is there in this hypothetical?
Yeah,
would
because
it work?
there'd be a lot of studying to go involved too.
Yeah, see, that's where it would get. The idea of doing it doesn't. I like the idea of taking some classes, doing some accounting, some history. I'm all for that, but like I got stuff to do, you know.
Yeah.
Would it get in the way of my streaming? What about my podcast?
I couldn't imagine giving my time studying for things that I realized this doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter.
Yeah, writing papers.
That's the hard part. I think the farther you get away from school and you get in the real world, and if you have a little success, you realize like the money you'd have to pay me to attend a class would be pretty high. Not certain things like a Harvard business class, something for sure I would take it, but just the basic like did you guys have to take general ed courses at Fresno?
Probably. What would qualify as that?
Yeah,
I'm sure everybody does,
sociology is the one that just keeps coming to my mind. Basic math,
Probably
maybe
took
like chemistry.
Yeah, I think I took like a Greek. Read some Homer or something for GE.
My chemistry teacher at Cal Poly was not legally blind, like legit 100% could not see.
Did that create an issue?
Well, I mean, during the test, it was he did have a helper, but the helper was like this dude that was in a frat that everyone kind of knew, and it was just, is this serious? Like, is this higher education here? I mean, you're just all like, yeah, and the book out. I mean, come on, guys. I don't want the guy to lose his job or anything, but this part of a test is if you can't see, it makes it hard to keep an eye on all the kids.
Yeah.
Especially a subject like chemistry where a lot of people are probably not trying.
How do they do it now on Zoom?
It's a hell of a question.
All right. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, see where it goes.
Thanks for being on our YouTube channel. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. Maybe you guys already do. And as they say, John, adios pelota. Godspeed.